As his tongue shoved the mystery item into every corner of my mouth, I realized it was actually a chunk of his Big Mac.
Oh, God.
Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. Today we are reading some teen memories. Our first story is from Avery. She is answering the question, what did you think was harmless when you were a kid that you look back on in horror now, from our original deck? When I was 16, I dated a 26-year-old.
What? Huh?
No.
Huh?
Don't do that. If you're the 26-year-old, don't do that. You have no good intentions. I was always a precocious kid and had a hard time fitting in with kids my own age. This left me with kind of low self-esteem and caused me to feel like a bit of a loner. In high school, I got really into art house movies and started hanging out at the one art house movie theater in town every weekend. I had become friendly with some of the people who worked at the theater who were mostly college-aged or early 20s, and sometimes they would hang out at the diner across the street after the last showing. Not wanting to seem like a kid to them, I lied and told them I was 18 and in college. It was the first time I had made some friends I felt I could relate to a bit more, and I didn't want them blowing me off because of my age. It was through this social circle that I met and started hanging out with Ben, a 26-year-old grad student who shared my interest in art house movies. I feel like 26 and 18 is still a horrible age gap.
It's, even though you're technically adults.
Yeah. There's just such a difference.
Yeah.
It's like one thing if you're like in your 40s or 30s even, like, but when you're that young, there's too much development that happens.
There's also just like so many, like I've dated some older women, and one of them was like, oh, I have different experiences than you.
Yeah.
Like she was married before, so that's the whole thing, got divorced. Like at the time I was like, oh, I'm 25, 26, and she was like 31 or something like that, which is not crazy. But at the time I was like, what are you talking about? And now as I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, I can relate in some ways.
Yeah.
I get where she was coming from.
When you're younger, you're like, no, I'm really smart and I'm really mature. And like, I definitely dated people who were too old for me, and then now in my 30s I'm just like, ew, what was wrong with you? Like when I was younger I was like,
I'm judging you.
When I was younger I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like really smart, I'm really mature, and it's like, no, I wasn't. I was an idiot. Ben was flirty with me from the start, and it was the most attention I'd ever had from a guy. I had never been on a date, much less kissed anyone, so I was really flattered when he seemed to like me and didn't give a ton of thought as to whether I liked him all that much or consider that the guy was a decade older than me. When he asked me on a real date, I was excited about the idea of it and desperate to feel accepted by someone. He took me out for dinner and then to see a risque Pedro Almodovar movie. He started kissing me in the middle of the movie, my first kiss, and I was not into it. His beard was scratchy, the kisses felt too slobbery, the whole thing generally felt awkward and suffocating, but I wanted to seem mature, so I didn't say anything. Yeah, that sucks.
If the kiss ain't it, man, I'm walking away.
No, slobbery kisses. Get that out of here. No, stop it.
This is the ASMR portion of the podcast.
The whole time he was kissing me, I kept thinking to myself, this is what all the fuss is about? This kind of sucks. I definitely remember laughing in the middle of my first kiss because I was just like, no.
This can't be what it's like.
This is ridiculous. This is not what we're doing.
I feel like as a kid, a lot of things that are adult are hyped up, a lot of fluff, and there's like no substance there until you can understand it and you know what you're doing.
Kissing is an acquired taste.
It does have a taste.
It shouldn't. No, I don't want any taste. He asked if I wanted to go back to his place after, but I told him I had to be up early and said maybe another night. He was like, why do you have to be up early? You're like high school?
No, first period?
Definitely not first period. dude. I had no one to really talk to about the situation and thought maybe it was just my lack of experience that made the kissing not all that fun. I thought maybe I should give it another chance. Maybe I could warm up to it. When he showed up to our next date, he had brought me a gift. I opened it and it was a teddy bear wearing leather bondage gear with a whip affixed to its paw.
What? Like what? Okay, he's 26, 10 years older, and on the second date,
why would
he brings a teddy bear in bondage gear?
Age gap aside, that's not a second date gift.
Yeah.
You maybe bring flowers.
That's at least 10.
So something normal, at least
what?
10.
Come
or
on.
you unless you met at a dungeon party.
Yeah, if you're like, we started dating because our interest was bondage, right? As opposed to our interest was art house movies.
Yeah.
Is there an art house movie with a bondage bear in it?
Probably. Let's be real.
They're like, and that was the movie we watched, Bondage Bear.
Bondage Bear, the movie. He was grinning and said, I made the bear's outfit for you. Okay, so he's artsy. Okay, so he's crafty.
Okay.
Love it. Okay.
Going to Michael's.
Making leather outfits. Sounds like a catch.
I just can't even, let's say that he did, or, he goes and he makes it himself and goes to the craft store and he just gets these materials. Do you think the person at the register is like, so what's this for?
Well, I mean, he's probably just getting, plain leather.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, and these chains?
Yeah, you're just making a leather couch,
It's just,
maybe he might make a lot of
he could
tiny. I don't know. I had no idea what to do with this, but I felt totally disgusted. I thanked him. Yeah. I thanked him and tried to downplay my horror, but I think he could tell I didn't like it. He started explaining how he thought it would be a cute reference to our first real date and that it was meant to be funny. They did see Bondage Bear the movie.
I'm just saying.
I was like, yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Haha. But it did not make sense and I wanted to go home. I powered through an evening of bowling with him. My God, get out of here. I hate bowling.
Bears, bowling. What's next?
This guy sucks. And some friends from the theater, but felt out of place and miserable. All of those feelings of not being able to relate to people crept back in. I felt like everyone understood something I didn't, and I wondered what was wrong with me. Every time Ben touched me, I wanted to crawl out of my own skin, but also kept feeling like I was somehow defective for not liking him. He tried to invite me over again after bowling, but I told him I wasn't feeling well and had to head home. After that, I kind of blew him off and stopped going to the theater. He called me a couple of times, but I made some excuses about being busy with school and not really having time for a relationship right now. High school.
Yeah. High school.
I never explained to him what the real problem was. I was too embarrassed and also worried he would be mad if I admitted I'd lied about my age. I am
also legally, I think he's in a very bad position here.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't want you to say anything. I definitely can't say it. Like, if she were to reveal her actual age, he would be like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't do anything. Obviously, he's like, I want to keep this a secret. I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah. He shouldn't have. There's no way she didn't look young.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Also, if someone tells your age, just assume they're telling you older than they actually are.
Also, as far as he knows, she was 18, which again is weird. If you're 26, don't do that.
Yeah.
I am so appalled at all of it now that I'm an adult. You may be wondering where my parents were while all of this was going on, but since they saw me as a well-behaved straight-A student, they basically let me do whatever I wanted and didn't really pay much attention to me. I was pretty free to come and go and not tell them anything about what I was up to. I could say I was going to a movie and disappear for 5 hours with no follow-up questions. I never told them about Ben and didn't start befriending or dating people my age until I got into college.
Well, I hope in the remaining years of high school, she was like, I'm just going to focus on me.
It sounds like it.
And just like, do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You don't need boys.
This dude was in the wrong.
Yeah.
And don't date people who are teenagers if you are not a teenager.
Yeah.
And 18, even if it is technically a legal adult, is a teenager.
Yeah.
I feel like once you can legally drink, do not date somebody who can't legally drink. That's weird.
Yeah.
They are too young for you.
But then if you think back to when we were younger in college or high school or whatever, and then you're like, oh, this person was dating someone that was like 3 or 4 years younger, but at the time you're like, oh, but they're both in high school, so it's like not weird. It is weird. It is, when you look back at it, you're like, yeah, he was like 18 and she was like 15. That's weird. Or like she was 17. It's like going, at the time you're like, oh, it's whatever. There's like a senior and a junior.
Also, senior, junior, but like the senior freshman relationships were bizarre. I feel like that happens all the time.
You're like, this person is so fresh into school, like, let them get some bearings, figure out who they are, meet their friends, get situated.
No, stop ruining
Don't
these
prey
people.
on them.
Yeah. All right. Our next story is from Stephanie. It is, what life experience did you build up in your head but were disappointed by? From the original deck. My first kiss was so bad I didn't kiss another person for 2 years.
Damn.
Another first kiss story.
I'm telling you, man. If the kiss is a miss, I don't know. You gotta go.
You're gonna come up with.
By the end of it, I'll come up with.
You'll
something.
have a good saying. You're not gonna speak for the rest of the story. You're just
I'm just gonna be sitting here.
Okay, I'm gonna have it. Growing up, I put a lot of weight on getting my first kiss. Movies and TV shows made it seem like it's the big, important, life-changing thing, so I couldn't wait to experience it. It didn't help that my best friend got her first kiss when she was 12 and was always bragging about how cool it was. Finally, when I was a freshman in high school, I got my first boyfriend, Greg. I was thrilled to be in a relationship and kept daydreaming about finally getting my first kiss.
Greg sounds like he's a bad kisser. Just the name.
Just by the name.
His name's Greg. Sounds like a bad kisser.
All Gregs are bad kissers.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Greg and I were in math class together and always flirted with each other in the back of class. And by flirting, I mean he would tease me and I would laugh at his jokes. Oh my God, you're mean to me. I love that. One day after class, he asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend, and that was that. Our first week of dating, nothing changed. We just kept talking in math class and occasionally said hi to each other in the hall. Since I had never been in a relationship before, I wasn't sure if this was normal or not.
I can relate to this.
Were we supposed to go on dates? Did I need to make the next move? I was so anxious and knew if I was going to get that kiss, I would need to see him outside of school. Kiss at school, people be kissing at school.
They be getting in some education outside those extracurriculars.
The next week, with the encouragement of my friends, I worked up the courage to ask him to hang out over the weekend. He was like, sure. Honestly, looking back on it, I have no idea why he asked me to be his girlfriend. He was this too cool for school skater kid, and outside of basically nagging me in class, he didn't really say much. We exchanged numbers, and he said he would call me over the weekend to make plans. On Saturday, I anxiously waited by the phone. I could barely eat, I was so excited. The whole day passed, and there were no calls from Greg. I ended up crying myself to sleep that night. Did he not like me anymore? On Sunday, I decided I would just call him. I was his girlfriend after all. I was allowed to do that. So I called and his dad answered the phone. Hi, is Greg there? I asked. Who is this? His dad sounded kind of annoyed. I hated, remember having to call and talk to your friend's parents? That was always the worst.
Hi, Mrs. Johnson. Is Timmy home?
Try to talk to, especially for like a date. That's so awkward. I'm Stephanie, his girlfriend. A long pause, and then his dad was like, okay, I'll go get him. I felt so uncomfortable, but finally Greg answered the phone and I asked if he still wanted to hang out. He said, sure. I asked where he wanted to go. He said, I was going to go skate behind Walmart if you wanted to come. Bruh. Okay, not exactly what I was expecting, but fine.
Walmart.
I put on a cute outfit, did my makeup, and had my mom drop me off at Walmart. I think I told her I was going there with some friends, and she was probably happy to get me out of the house, so she didn't question it. I walked around to the loading area in the back, and there was Greg, skateboarding. My heart fluttered. My first real date, even if it was in a Walmart parking lot. Greg kicked up his board and awkwardly hugged me. Then he went back to skating. I didn't really know what to do, so I just stood there watching him for probably an hour.
Oh, cool ollie.
Hell yeah.
Cool pop shove it.
Kickflip. Nice. I was starting to get hungry and a little bit annoyed, so I yelled at him, do you want to get food? He stopped skating, flipping his hair out of his face, and said, sure. Okay, where should we go? I asked. I don't know, he responded. Haha, okay, me neither. I was trying to be cool, but also this didn't feel like the date I was expecting it to be. Then he goes, there's a McDonald's inside. Great. I was just relieved to not be standing in a parking lot anymore.
I remember so many times in high school be like, oh, let's go meet up at the Burger King or the McDonald's. And then you'd, be those rambunctious teens.
Oh my God.
Be like, I'll just order fries.
Ours was like Denny's.
Oh,
like
yeah.
after a play.
Denny's,
oh my God.
yeah,
And all the theater kids were just like hyped up.
Yeah.
We're the worst table.
You're like, let me get that limitless lemonade.
Yeah. You're like, we're each going to spend $5 and we're going to scream here for 2 hours.
2 more crayons.
At the McDonald's inside Walmart, we ordered separately. I got McNuggets and a Sprite, and he got a Big Mac. He said nothing, and we ate in silence. I felt so uncomfortable. After we finished, I was like, so what should we do next? There's some couches in the electronics section, he replied. This was the most he had said to me all day. I was like, oh my God, is this about to actually happen? And all my anxiety was replaced with teenage hormones raging and ready to be kissed. Right in that Walmart electronics section.
I mean, just
romance.
Hit the lazy boy. Boom.
We went to the electronics section and sat down on one of the leather couches facing some big screen TV that was for sale. Greg put his arm around me and looked into my eyes. I couldn't breathe. It was about to happen.
Oh my God.
Oh, can't wait. He leaned in and kissed me, but not a nice little peck like I was expecting. A full-on, open-mouth, sloppy kiss. His tongue was in my mouth before I even knew what was happening, waggling around like it needed to touch every single inch of it.
It's like one of those, like the plankton or whatever that like cleans. Is it plankton that cleans the whale,
yeah.
And they're like in the mouth?
No. I was like, oh no, is this what kissing is?
Oh, yes.
It's always like that. Then horror. I felt something else in my mouth. Something solid.
No! Is it a tooth? Is it food? Is it gum?
As his tongue shoved the mystery item into every corner of my mouth, I realized it was actually a chunk of his Big Mac.
Oh, God. It's just like playing pinball in there. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, gross.
I was completely disgusted and knew I needed that thing out of my mouth immediately. So what did I do?
No.
I tried to get it back into his mouth.
Nice. Okay. You take it.
He was like, no, you must.
I did think for a second when you were describing that she was like, well, I got to do something. And then for a moment, I thought she was going to swallow it.
No, that would be even worse.
That would be gross. But I'm
gross.
just like, what do you do in the situation? Obviously, remove your mouth and spit it out.
Our tongues were now jabbing at each other like we were playing hockey and the Big Mac chunk was the puck. Finally, I felt the nasty, slimy thing on the tip of my tongue and I shoved it into his mouth.
Also, at this point, you're going, it's like, how is it even solid anymore? It just breaks up into just
like a meat chunk.
And possibly bun, lettuce, sauce, like whatever. I would have just spit it out, honestly. Let me push it back in. It like disintegrates more. It gets
You're just
smaller.
like panicking. You don't.
Yeah. Spit it
terrible.
out. Spit it out.
Greg immediately pulled away, not looking at me. I should probably get going, he said. Oh yeah, me too. I was so disgusted at this point, I didn't even care that he probably thought I was the one who had chunks of food left in my mouth.
As a young boy, you'd be like, I got to be the coolest story ever. So it's like, yeah, we were making out in Walmart.
Yeah, it was so hot. She watched me skate for an hour.
Yeah.
She was so turned on. She had
and
to
then
hook
she
up.
had this food in her mouth. There's like, she's so gross. Oh, it's food mouth girl. I don't know.
Yeah, screw you, Greg. You suck.
Yeah.
The next day at school, Greg found me in the hall and told me he didn't think we should keep dating. I was just like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't really care, man.
Whatever.
This is lame.
I had liked him a lot, but that kiss was so bad, I didn't even care. It grossed me out so much that I actually decided kissing wasn't for me at all. I actively avoided boys for another 2 years until I finally got kissed at a pool party where some alcohol was involved. Luckily, that kiss was much better, so I decided to not write it off entirely. Still, my first kiss was nothing short of disappointing, and even though I was able to give kissing another shot, I haven't eaten a hamburger since. What was he doing with this giant chunk of food in his mouth?
At one point, I was thinking like, oh, does this kid Greg have braces and it got stuck and then like dislodged?
Maybe.
But also like making out with braces, that's a whole other thing you got to get over. And to be like the first kiss,
that's part of being a teen.
I luckily never really had to deal with that. So
wow,
I'm just saying.
You just didn't kiss anyone.
Yeah. And let me just say, my actual name is Greg. And it was one makeout and I never kissed another again.
Then you had to change your name to Gabe after that.
It was very embarrassing. Turns out that story ended up burning me and not her. So, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well, you win some, you lose some.
Our next story is from Tara, and it is, what's your not my proudest moment story from the original deck? I got busted for shoplifting in middle school. We moved from Minneapolis to San Diego the summer before I started 7th grade. So I went into middle school with no friends and not knowing anyone. Like most middle schools, mine was very cliquey, and a lot of the kids knew each other from elementary school, so I was at a big disadvantage. I was always good at soccer, which happened to be the sport the popular girls were into, and I desperately wanted them to like me, so I decided to join soccer to try to make friends with them. The queen bee, Amanda, lorded her power over the other girls from soccer, judging everyone's clothes, hair, jewelry, etc. She would say stuff like, "Oh, are those earrings new? Are they real gold?" Or, "Did you do your own nails?" Or, "Ooh, I love white jeans. Just hope you don't get your period in those." She sounds so fun.
Wow.
Everything always felt like a compliment that was also a trick question or insult.
You know where she learned it? Probably her mom.
Yeah, probably. That's
like those
usually...
snide comments, those backhanded compliments, those, "Oh, I'm actually, insulting you." And it's the thing, she probably didn't even understand what she was saying.
Yeah, Amanda's the real victim in this story.
Mm-hmm.
We had a school dance coming up, and Amanda told the girls on the soccer team she wanted us to wear matching Guess jean skirts. Now, I did not have a Guess jean skirt, and when I asked my parents to get me one, they said no. My mom was like, "I am not buying a $50 skirt you're going to wear once. You already have skirts. You can wear one of those." Fair.
Yeah. Also, $50 for a skirt? God damn. Is that how much it normally is?
From Guess? Probably, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I was complaining to this girl, Robin, also from soccer, that I didn't have a Guess jean skirt and didn't know what I was going to do to get one before the school dance. Robin was like, "Just swipe one. I do it all the time." She made it seem like such a simple thing and an obvious solution. But I had never stolen anything and had no idea how to even go about it. I was like, I've never stolen. How do you do it without getting caught?" She just laughed and said we could go to the mall after school and she'd show me.
No, this sounds like a bad idea. Never. I mean, if you're going to do a $5 discount or a 5-finger discount, you go for something small. Yeah. I'm not saying that you should steal, but in the hypothetical that you were, something that's so small.
If it's a massive corporation.
Okay, that's a good point, right? Because corporations, they're not actually humans. They don't have souls.
But maybe don't steal. It's illegal or whatever.
Yeah.
First, we went to Claire's and she told me to go talk to the staff while she pocketed some jewelry. That way, no one would be watching her. This went so easily, I was amazed at how casual the whole thing was. Next, it was my turn, and we went to a department store that had the skirt I wanted. She told me to take a bunch of clothes to try on and put the skirt in my bag when I was in the fitting room. She was supposed to distract the employee in the fitting room while I tried stuff on and stole the skirt. It's going to have one of those alarms on it.
I'm just waiting for the alarm or the ink to explode in the bag and... Like, "Oh no, I ruined my soccer jersey." You know?
I waited around in the fitting room for a bit and then handed over everything I'd taken in with me but the skirt. Then we tried to leave as quickly as possible. The employee was counting the things I put back and she pretty quickly realized there was an item missing. She was calling after us and we got stopped by a store security guard. He told us we had to come with him and he took us to a security room where he made us empty our bags and pockets. I guess that's another way to get caught.
Yeah. And then the call gets made to your parents and then it's like, "Hey, we're in this department store security room for the mall and we have your daughter here." Yeah.
I started freaking out and crying, but Robin seemed completely unfazed by all this. She's like, "I do this all the time."
Robin doesn't even have parents.
Yeah. She's a feral child.
Yeah, she just roams the streets and is like, I don't even know what I'm going to wear next tomorrow, or eat for dinner. She's grabbing things.
She's one of the lost boys.
She's ageless.
Yeah. The security guard said, "I can call the police or your parents." I decided to let him call my parents, who were understandably furious.
Her friend's like, "You can call the police."
She's like, "I'm not real." My mom was there first, and I had to wait in the security room with Robin while the security guard talked to her. I spent the entire ride home crying while my mom yelled at me about how embarrassing this was for her and how I was going to be grounded for a month. Not having the skirt ended up being a non-issue since I was grounded and not allowed to go to the dance anyway. To add insult to injury, Amanda ended up changing her mind last minute and said she didn't want to wear matching skirts anymore because she'd gotten a new dress she wanted to wear instead.
Wow. Amanda is the worst.
Yeah, stop
We said it from the
that.
beginning. We're like, she's pretty terrible.
When I saw Robin at school, I told her about the grounding and how much trouble I'd gotten into with my parents. I asked her what her parents did, and she just shrugged and said, nothing really. I had them call my stepmom. That bitch has been trying to win me over since she got together with my dad, so she said she'd keep it between us, and rolled her eyes. All right. Lucky Robin.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know if I believe the story about the stepmom trying to win her over because she doesn't have any parents.
Yeah, we have agreed
Yeah.
Robin is not real. She
She
haunts the school.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was pissed at how I was the only one who got in trouble when the shoplifting wasn't even my idea in the first place. Robin actually went around bragging to the other girls about our cool shoplifting adventure, which just made me feel worse. I'm ashamed to admit I stayed friends with these girls for the rest of middle school. But at least I did not go shoplifting again.
Well, I guess we learned a lesson.
You know, what was our lesson?
Don't trust Amanda to lead a group of people because she's very fickle in her decision making.
Yeah.
And Robin, Amanda, terrible people.
and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got for now.
Our last story is from Ellen. It is, what's your most cringeworthy high school memory from our original deck? I was a late bloomer in every single sense. I had barely started going through puberty when I was 13. Even though I was way behind all of my friends, this didn't bother me. I had heard all about their bras and periods and was just like, no thanks, that doesn't sound fun to me. Then when I was 16, I worked at an overnight summer camp. I loved the job so much and really liked most of the campers, except for this group of mean girls who never listened to me and were always bullying the other campers. The ringleader was this girl, Allison. What if it was Amanda? What if it was?
She's like, sleepaway camp, Amanda.
It's the same Amanda. Yeah. She changed her name to Allison.
And then Robin's there just lurking in the woods, you know?
This girl was seriously a mini Regina George. Like, I was scared of her and she was only 12. She's gonna make her shoplift. I can feel it.
Yeah. She's gonna make her murder someone.
Wow, that's so cringe. Murder is so cringe. Anyway, at this point in my life, I still didn't have my period. I was up to speed on what would happen someday, but honestly never really thought about it. It seems stupid looking back, but the thought of packing pads or tampons for this summer didn't occur to me at all. One day during camp, we were hiking and I started getting a horrible stomach ache. I assumed whatever food we had for breakfast wasn't sitting well with me and ignored it. I went about the rest of the day with the campers, and when we got back to our cabins that night, I still wasn't feeling very good. That night, I tossed and turned and finally needed to pee. I grabbed my flashlight and went to the bathroom, pulled down my pants, and saw brown clumps. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? Again, I knew all about periods, but I guess no one had told me the first one can be different. Anyway, I started freaking out. First, I was like, wait, did I poop my pants? No, I would remember pooping my pants, right?
I don't know. Some people don't. Some people just wake up and go, oh,
Some people.
Hey, look, I'm not pointing fingers, but...
Then I was like, did some alien creature crawl inside me? I know that's an insane thought, but getting my period was so not on my radar that my mind actually went there first. I feel like also it's the middle of the night. You're at camp. It's scary.
You're like, was I abducted and brought back to my bed?
Probably. I assume that happens at camp all the time.
Also, totally reasonable to think this. If you're like, this is not, I was told blood. This is something else. What's going on?
Terrifying. I sat on the toilet crying when who walks in? Yep. Allison and one of her friends, Skylar. Allison and Skylar, Amanda and Robin. Is someone crying in here? Allison laughed. Is that you, Talia? Talia was another camper Allison had been tormenting earlier in the day. I can only assume she was hoping to embarrass her even more.
And that's when you say, yes, it is Talia.
Yeah, this is Talia. Oh my God.
Stop it.
Yeah. Don't come look in here though. I'm
Don't
just
tell
crying.
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to have a dominant position
throw Talia under the bus. We didn't mean it, Talia. Oh my God, Skylar scoffed. I wasn't sure what to do. I was supposed to be in charge, but here I was crying in the bathroom. I tried to compose myself and was like, oh, it's just me. Sorry, be out in a minute. Dead silence, followed by stifled giggles. Okay. What's going on? Allison finally said. My mind was racing and I couldn't help it. I burst into tears and was just like, I don't know what's happening to me. I could hear Allison barely holding back laughter. Are you seriously crying? This made me cry even harder. I was so humiliated, but this girl was awful. I felt like I was a kid being bullied in middle school all over again. Luckily, Skylar seemed to pity me. What's happening? She asked. Something's coming out of me, I blubbered. And as I was saying it, everything clicked. I was like, oh, duh. Obviously, this is my period. That's the worst. Camp is a terrible place to have your first period.
Dude, you're away from home. You remove that safety net, and then you got all these other kids who are also in this awkward position. You're like, and then you got to wait for the end of the week or the 2 weeks or however long camp is.
Tell us in the comments. What are other places you think would be? Do you have a worse place than camp?
For your first period.
Yeah, first period. Unfortunately, it clicked for Allison too. What, like you just got your period? She started laughing again. Do you need a pad or something? Skylar offered helpfully. Oh my God, have you like never had a period? Allison continued to laugh at me. Allison, calm down.
Allison is going to get hit by a school bus.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're a mean girl. Girls are so weird in middle school about periods. Like being like, oh, you don't have it yet? And it's like, it sucks. Nobody wants it.
Is the thinking that is like a rush to have it? So you're like, I got it, I'm done? Or
yeah,
like I'm a woman?
Like,
or like
I'm
what?
an adult or something like that. But like, it's a terrible thing.
It sounds terrible. Every month you got to go through this.
Yeah.
I empathize.
Thank you. No, thank you. Because Gabe is a feminist.
I try to be. I'm not perfect, but I try to be.
I felt so humiliated, but accepted the pad Skylar got from her cabin for me. All right, so Skylar turned out to be not too terrible, but iffy.
It's because Skylar is this anti-establishment girl.
Yeah.
She can understand with going against the grain.
Yeah,
so there is some
I'm
good
mean,
in her.
But I also like Allison's not going to push me around.
She knows how to direct the like meanness in her towards a good like effort, a good cause.
Yeah. And now she's a politician. Honestly, such an embarrassing moment. And while I'm thankful Skylar was nice to me, my reputation had basically been ruined with Allison. Luckily, each group of campers was only there for 2 weeks, and I was able to redeem myself with the next group. But that moment has been burned into my memory forever.
I mean, here's the truth, or the reality of the situation is, she's probably never going to see Allison again.
Yeah.
Like after that period of time, that cohort that comes to the camp, unless she's going to be a counselor the following summer.
Yeah.
She probably won't ever see her.
There.
And Allison's like, I'm too cool for camp, and she'll never show up again.
Also, if you're working there, are you just like living at this camp all summer?
Pretty much. I've worked at a camp as a counselor before.
Overnight?
Overnight. But they only came in for a week. And then they would basically...
How long did you have to work?
2 months.
Wow. Yeah. How old were you?
I was a junior in high school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In Colorado. What's up, dude?
Dope. That's it for Delve Deck Stories. If you liked this video, you can like, subscribe, and watch some of our other videos. And if you have a fun story you want to share, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and we might read it on a future episode.